Coucou, what's up everyone, it's Kadija aka musingknomad, and I'm back again, and it's for a tips on moving to France. Like always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and let's get started. So you've already seen in my previous video of tips of moving to France, I gave you a very generalized tips on things, basic things that you need to know before you come. And today we're going to focus in on we're going to hone in on apartment hunting and looking for housing in general. So I'm basing this off of a lot of the questions that I was asked in the comment section. So I'm just going to go into as much detail as I can. If you have any further questions, let me know, and maybe I'll consider doing a live, and that way I can just answer your question just like that off the cuff, and it'll be a little bit, easier rather than having to record this, edit it, and miss out on the questions that you guys actually want to find out about. So you've bought your ticket, you've secured your position, and now you are going to move to France. So I guess obviously when you first come, you're probably going to have some temporary housing, whether that's going to be a hotel, Airbnb, etc. Right? So someone asked me actually when I did my last tip, like there was a little, I hinted at something random that happened with my couchsurfing host when I first came to France, and I think I'll save that little story time at the end. It's nothing serious, but I'll just save that little portion at the end of the story, at the end of this portion. But I've noted most of the things that I thought were important to know before when you're looking for housing in France. And something else that you guys are asking, what is the basic budget for like France? If you're on a shoestring budget, if you're on a normal budget, or if you're on an expensive budget, like how would you live? I think I'll make that on a separate video. If you guys have more questions about that, please let me know below. That way I can answer the things that you want to know about, and I'll do a separate video about budgeting and what it takes to basically live and survive in France. So when you're looking for an apartment, the first step obviously is looking for the sites or looking for companies, etc., that will aid you in that. One of the sites that I'm going to link these sites below. I would say the three top sites I think are important to know are Le Bon Coin, sejour, and tapif. So Le Bon Coin is basically like the French version of Craigslist, but maybe not as shiesty. But I'm sure maybe there's like shiesty parts about it, but I'm not aware of it. But Le Bon Coin is basically Craigslist. I've used Le Bon Coin for looking for housing. I've used Le Bon Coin for buying furnishing for my apartment. I've used it for many things. That you can find tickets on there. You can find a lot of different things on that site, so it's really, really helpful. Sejour is specifically for looking for housing. Sejour, lodging yourself. That's kind of what it means. So sejour is if you're looking to buy, if you're looking to rent your home, your apartment, etc. That is what that is for, and you can specify everything that you're looking for. If you were looking for certain square meter footage for your place, if you're looking to have a gab, if you're looking for bathroom, all the things that are important to you, you can definitely pick out on sejour. You can as well on Le Bon Coin, but sejour is really specific for like apartments, homes, etc. And PAP, PAP.fr, PAP, it stands for particular, which basically means individual to individual, and it's basically it takes out the middleman in the sense of like you don't have to pay any extra fees because you're directly renting from the owner of the place, and you guys just sign whatever contract that you guys need to sign, and it's legitimate. It can be legitimate, or if you want, you can sublet. But for sublets, I would definitely say check out PAP, and also especially Le Bon Coin if you want to sublet someone's home. And there's always people announcing things like that on both sites, especially on Le Bon Coin. So PAP is a good site, but with PAP you have to be really like on it, because obviously people are not trying to pay extra fees when you're renting with an immobilier, and that's something I'm going to mention a little bit later. You don't want to pay those extra fees, so if you see a place on there that you want, go for it quick. And with France, it's call them and set up an appointment. Don't be just emailing, texting, whatever. Call right away, because those apartments go quickly, okay? So the basic way most people are going to be finding apartments apart from looking online and stuff. And even when you look online, it's going to be through an immobilier. And immobilier basically means it's like an apartment agency. So in the US, the way we have it set up basically is you have where I'm from, you have a lot of apartment complexes, and in each of those apartment complexes, there's the leasing office where you can sign an application fee, so they look at your background and all that stuff, and then rent you an apartment. They don't have that in France at all. That does not exist here. The only similar version of that they might have is student accommodation, and that one's a little bit different, and I'll go into that in a little bit. But let me put this down. But with the immobilier, so when you're on Soleil, when you're on Le Bon Coin, you can decide if you're looking to, if it's particulier. So like on Le Bon Coin, you can choose that if you're renting from a particulier. But most likely, like I said, that's something you're going to do on PAP. But you can see if it's going to be coming through an agency or if it's coming through an individual, right? So with the immobilier, the apartment agent, or the agencies, because they don't just focus on apartments, they focus on apartments, but it's not just for renting, it's for renting and it's for selling. And with them, they have a fee. Okay, you can't evite it, you can't get away from it unless they're having some kind of special, but most likely they won't have a special and you have to pay. So basically it's a month's rent. And you don't pay that each time. It's just if you find an apartment through them and you go check it out and you like it and you want to rent that, you can rent it, but you have to pay them basically a month's rent. And you also have to pay a deposit, which is a month's rent without the charges. I'll go into that a little bit later. And you also have to pay first month rent with the charges. So basically you have to pay about 3 months worth of rent when you're going to move into an apartment. So you kind of have to have some coins, right? If you're doing it with an apartment agent, whereas if you're doing with a particular, with an individual, you just pay your deposit and then you pay your first month's rent, and that's it. So with apartment agencies, even with them, you have to be on it. You have to call, like, I want to go check this place out. Let's go visit the apartment. And if you like it, like, sign for it ASAP, because it might go. Because in the city that I live in, there's a lot of students that live here. And when I was looking for an apartment, and the first 2 years that I was here, I was subletting. But after that, I had to get my own place. And when I was looking for apartments, it took me like 2 to 3 months, honestly. And I remember I'd come back in August. I was still in France, but I'd come back to the city I was living in August. And basically from August to November, basically, because I moved into my apartment in November. From August to November, about 2.5 months, I was struggling trying to find a place. I was just like, oh my God. Every time I went somewhere, they're like, there's always some kind of an excuse, and it was just really difficult and very exhausting. And luckily I found this place, and I'll get into that as well. So with the student accommodations, most likely, I'm not sure if for people that do tapif, if you qualify for this. I would definitely research that and see if you're doing tapif and you want to get student housing, if you qualify for that. If you do, definitely do that, because it's inexpensive, and generally speaking, they're going to include electricity, they're going to include heating, and they'll probably also have internet in the apartment. It's not going to be the best, obviously, and if you want to buy your own, you can, which is pretty inexpensive as well. But student housing, they don't charge you I think you have to pay a deposit, but I don't believe they charge you an extra fee. And obviously, most likely it's going to be a studio with them, but it's a good deal, and most likely as well, it's going to be furnished. So student housing is a lot easier, and I would recommend that if you have that opportunity. But if you don't and you want to get your own place, meaning like an apartment that's not like in a student housing accommodation, then do that. And one thing you should know with the student housing accommodation, they're most likely going to have like a laundry mart or a laundry room downstairs. Obviously you have to pay for that, but they kind of, it's not all inclusive, but basically kind of it's like all inclusive. So all the little things that you need is going to be there, which is really nice. And you don't have to struggle having to go to the laundry mart to go do your laundry and all of that stuff. And when you're looking for apartments, you have to decide, the things that are important for you. So for me, the things that were important was I needed to be close to the metro. So I'm less than a 5-minute walk from the metro. I needed to have washer and dry. But even if the apartment didn't come with a washer, because most places you're not going to have washer and dryer, you have the little things that you hang your clothes on, and that's how you dry things for the most part in France. Most people don't have a washer and dryer, even if they have like a home, right? So here, most places, they might come with a washer, and obviously that's going to increase your rent more, or they'll have the place wired up for a washer. So my place, that was important for me. So I wanted my place to have a washer, because I'm like, I'm not trying to be going to the laundry mart to do my laundry. I like the convenience of having it in my home, and that was important for me. So the place that I got had the it was set up for that. So when I did move in, I just bought a washer from Le Bon Coin. Somebody was selling one, and luckily the one that I bought was still within warranty, so I got a pretty good deal. And then from Le Bon Coin as well, I found somebody, no, I think actually it was from a Facebook group. I found like someone that was like basically doing a delivery service, and then I paid them, and then they were able to like bring that here for me. So you know, look at the things that you think are important. Obviously, if you want to live closer in the city center, it's going to be more expensive. And you just have to figure out what is best for you. Like, I don't drive in France. Like, I just take public transportation, and it's very reliable for the most part. It's quick. Like, from my house to my job, I would say is about less than 25 minutes. So that's me walking from my place to the metro, switching metros, and then walking from the metro to the job site. Less than 25 minutes around, I would say. So for me, like, I'm used to it. I don't mind it. So that works for me, right? So decide all the things that are important for you to have, and make sure, you know, when you're looking for that, like, it has those things. But obviously things will add up, right? And when you do finally find an apartment, whether that's with the student accommodation, whether if that's with an individual or with an apartment agency, obviously you're going to try to do a walkthrough for the place. You're going to sign your lease and pay up front the things that you need to pay up front, and then you get your keys to your place. And when you get your keys to your place, that's the date they start counting the rent. So the day you get your keys is the day it counts. Okay, so is it prorated? Is that the word? Or the opposite of prorated? So basically, let's say you moved in the 15th, you're not going to pay a full month's rent. You're going to pay 15 or 16 days worth of rent, right? If that's how it's set up. And I don't remember if that's prorated or prodated. I don't know what the word is, but you know what I'm trying to say. So they'll do that for you. And then generally speaking, you have to pay your rent like between the 1st and the 10th, depending on whatever your leasing contract says, between the 1st and the 10th. You have to pay them your rent. So it doesn't have to be like on the 1st, if you don't pay, you get charged a fee. Here, well, the place that I live in, I don't get charged a fee if like it's later. They'll just send me a reminder email or something saying, hey bitch, you didn't pay, so pay up. But there's no like late fee. So I don't know if other places do that, but my leasing agency that I did, there's been times where maybe I've forgotten to pay my rent or something, like with it, like meaning like a day late or something like that, right? But there's not going to be a fee that they charge you. It's just, yo, pay, and then you pay. And the way you pay, the way I do it, is just a bank transfer. So it's already set up that every month, like, basically I have it automated where every month, you know, that money just gets sent off, so I don't have any problems with it being late or whatever. And you can do that, or if you want, you can send a check by mail. But I don't know why you want to do all that, so just transfer it is a lot easier. So that's how I pay, and I think that's generally how most people would pay for their rent here. And then if any issues occur in your apartment, that's where things is different. I think for student housing, obviously this is different, but when you're in an apartment, when certain things occur, it's like you have to pay for it. And I'm like, so when I first moved in, the owner of this place really was just trying to rent this ASAP. They didn't really do all the work necessary to like ensure that everything was like, you know, up to par. And I remember within a month or so, like the fucking sink, it just like bursted, and I was calling them like, yo, there's a problem here. This needs to be fixed. You know what I mean? And they were not like being quick about it. Because for me, I'm used to, like, if you're in an apartment complex, you call the maintenance, like, yo, the pipe bursted, like, come fix this, and then they'll do it pretty quickly, right? Here, this dude was, like, taking forever, and I'm like, how am I supposed to cook? How am I supposed to do this, like, with this? So what I did was, I called a plumber myself. I had them fix it, and I took it off the rent. And that's not how you're supposed to do it, but I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Like, if you are not going to do it within a timely manner, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to subtract that from the rent. Like, that's on you, and I sent them the bill because you should have been more on it. And I've noticed that, like, they're not particularly efficient when it comes to like getting things done, and that frustrates me because I'm like, I'm paying you to rent this place. Like, if something goes wrong, you need to take care of it. And there's like certain things that like that do come up that they don't do that you have to do. So that's a little bit different. And then each, you know, when you read your lease, it'll tell you that, they'll stipulate those things for you. So just be aware of that. Okay, so I think I talked about the differences within the US and France. Renting, I talked about that. Talked about leasing agent fee, student accommodation, renting and subletting, I've talked about that. Ooh, also, there is this thing called CAF in France, CAF, and it stands for something, look it up online. But basically the CAF, most people, a lot of people qualify for it depending on your income. And the CAF, basically, they do a lot of services to help. They help with giving you they help with giving you subsidies for your rent. They help families, etc., etc. And allocation familiale, qu'est allocation familiale? That's what it stands for. Google it and find the definition for what it means. But basically, most people, depending on your income, most often you're going to qualify for it. So when I first came to France doing tapif, tapif doesn't pay much. You get around, after taxes, I think it's like 780 euros or just a little under 800 euros. So it's not a lot of money, but you're only working 12 hours a week. But it's something that you can actually live on, right? If you were to have student housing, and let's say your student housing, what I would say most student housing are not going to cost more than 500. My friend is living in one. I think hers is like 300 and something euros a month, so it's not a lot. And because everything's included, you don't have to worry about like paying extra bills and stuff. And I'll go into that later. So the CAF, basically, depending on your income, and if you're doing tapif and you're making that amount, they're going to give you the full capacity of the CAF, which is going to be around like 200 to 300 euros, I believe, a month. And that's something that either they'll pay directly to you, so you don't have, they'll pay directly to you, or they'll pay directly to your housing situation, and that takes off of your rent. So if your rent and student housing is 300 and you're getting 200 to 300 with the CAF, rent is basically nothing, so you have money left over for food. Food is pretty inexpensive in France. Like for me personally, my food budget per month is less than 100 euros. I would say it's like 80 euros a month. And that's me eating, like I'm a power lifter, and I eat a lot of protein, as in chickens and eggs and things like that, and I eat quite a lot. So for me, I can survive on 80 euros a month for food. And I eat quite a bit, you know? So budgeting, I think, if the CAF is taking care of this, and then you have basically, let's say 500 euros left over, you could use that to go travel. You could use that for a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? So it's pretty decent. And if you're making SMIC, so SMIC is basically the national minimum wage, and after taxes it's about 8 euros and some change per hour, and full time here is 35 hours a week. So if you're making SMIC, I think you could still qualify for the CAF, but you have to do that. And with the CAF, even if you're not a French citizen, even if you haven't lived here for a certain amount of time, as long as you're a resident and you're working, you qualify for it. And you just have to fill out the information and send them the information, and then they'll let you know, okay, yeah, you qualify, and then they'll start sending you the money. So that's really dope that they have that here. So I spoke about that. Okay, with electricity, so in my apartment, I have to pay the rent, and also I have to pay the charge. And that is something that you'll have. I don't know about student accommodations, but for sure in like an apartment itself, the charge is basically like water, sewage, garbage, and there's cleaning services. So in the building that I live, and again, this is what I was saying, how like France differs from the US, where it's like there's no such thing as like a apartment complex. All buildings are basically like somebody owns an apartment, and then they rent it out. It's kind of like a condo, I guess you kind of consider it. Someone owns it and then they rent it out, but there's no such thing as like an apartment complex unless it's maybe like a student accommodation, right? So in my building, there's like a person that comes and cleans once a week, and they come and clean, and then water, sewage, garbage is like 30 euros. That it's included in my, so for example, let's say my rent's 500 euros a month, and then the charge is 30 euros. So my total rent would be 530, right? And the charge is just, you pay at the same time, and you pay the same thing every month. So that's something that you have to be aware of. And in my place, also be mindful of this when you're looking for an apartment. If the place says they have central heating, that's a good thing. That means wintertime, the heating is free for everyone, basically, because it's included in your rent. But if it doesn't have central heating, that means you're gonna have to pay for that yourself. And here you can have an apartment that has either it runs on electricity or it runs on gas. So the place I live in is on electricity. I felt more comfortable with that because I'm like, I don't know how gas works and I don't want to deal with that. So the place I live in, it's electricity, and the major there are several electricity companies here, but the major one is 8AF, and 8AF is basically the one I use, and they also have an English speaking department. So if you're coming here and you don't know, you can contact them and then they'll walk you through everything. But I will say though, the first bill that I got from them, I was like, what the hell? They charged me like a 30 euro fee. I guess it's like a opening contract fee. And I'm like, well, that's some bullshit. I didn't even use the service. You're all charging me this much. And also, when I first rented here, the way that they would basically charge you was, so my apartment is quite small, it's less than 30 square meters. The leasing agent was like, oh yeah, it's such a small place. You probably be paying like 30 euros a month in electricity. It's going to be really cheap. Bullshit. The place is not well insulated, terribly insulated. So anyways, when they were saying, oh yeah, probably gonna be 30 euros a month, at ADF, when you're applying or you're signing up for their plan, they ask you what's the square footage of your place and when it was built and things like that, and then they'll give you like an average of what you should pay per month. So they're telling me, okay, well, based on what you've told us, we'll say maybe generally for the entire year per month, we'll say it's 45 euros per month for electricity. And I was paying that every month. And this was at a time where you just pay that estimated fee. And then if there's more over that you have to pay, they'll send you a bill. Or if there's less, then they'll give you a check for if you paid over that. So basically for a year, I was paying that, right? And then at the end of the year, they sent me a bill of 900 euros. So basically, I was like, they took out half, the 450 or whatever, near 500 that I've been paying for that year. And then I owed them, or whatever it was, I'm sorry. They took out the portion that I've been paying and I had to pay over 500 euros extra. I was like, what? Like, I was so angry. I'm like, these apartment people lied to me about this horrible insulated place, and this place was bad, horribly insulated. It's cold, all this stuff. And I'm like, I had to pay over 500 euros plus for electricity. Like in January when they sent me that bill, I was just like, wow. And ever since then, now I pay, instead, they don't do month-to-month payments. They have a thing where it's like every 2 months that you pay. So now I pay every 2 months, and in the wintertime, I already know it's going to be expensive. So I'm just like, oh, but yeah. So just be aware of that. Just work on that. Talk about water. Okay, also in a lot of places when you move into them, you're going to have la cave. So the cave is basically kind of like a basement, like storage room. And the place that I'm in, I don't have one, but other people that I know, they have a cave. So they go in there, they can store their bikes or whatever in there. And sometimes their place might include parking, but if it doesn't include parking, then you can just buy parking or sublet parking from people that are within the city center or wherever you're going to be going to more often. Okay, IKEA. Yeah, and also like if you're looking for furnishings and things like that, IKEA, like in the city that I live in, there's a navette, a free bus that goes from the city center to IKEA, and you can take that bus and then come back with like all your stuff. When I first was here, they didn't have that, and now they have all these wonderful things when I wasn't here. So I'm a little jealous, but that is definitely available. And maybe if you're in a major city, that's probably going to be available to you as well. But also IKEA offers like, you can have them deliver your products to your home. And like I said as well, like a lot of the things I bought to furnish my apartment, because I bought this, or I didn't buy it, I rented this unfurnished. A lot of the stuff I purchased through Le Bon Coin with people, and I got some really good deals. And then the majority of stuff as well I bought from IKEA, because obviously it's easier. And having to build all these little things, I'm like, oh, but yeah, it is what it is. So that is all I can really think of right now. And like I said, if you want more of the budget video, let me know, and then I'll go into detail about that. But you have to ask me specific questions so I can give you specific answers, because if I can't think of it, I won't remember. Okay, now for the little story time. So when I first came to France, the year before, I finished university and I was working for a year as an AmeriCorps. And if you know AmeriCorps, you ain't making nothing, okay, with AmeriCorps. So girl was not balling at all, okay? So when I first came, I actually got a couch surfing situation. And at the time, there was no, from my memory, so this was over 7 years ago, there was no such thing as fucking Airbnb. I wasn't aware of it at the time. If I had been aware of it, I probably would have gone that route, but it wasn't available. And like I said, I was on a budget, right? So I researched on couchsurfing people that were looking to host, and generally speaking, I try not to get guys, but guys have been the ones that have been the most generous on couchsurfing in my experience, and I have not, for the most part, I've not had any bad situations except this weird one. So this guy, and I looked obviously on Couchsurfing, you look and see their recommendations, how many people they've hosted and all the feedback that they have, and he was good, and he was really accommodating. He's like, oh yeah, I can pick you up from the airport and all this stuff. I was like, oh damn, you're super nice. So I ended up choosing him, and he picked me up from the airport, very nice, and then we went to his place. And it wasn't actually, no, before we went to this place, he took me to go eat, which was really nice. And I was like, oh wow, I really appreciate this, thank you so much, you didn't have to do all of this, and then we took me to his place, and he was, I would say he's like an older white man, probably around like mid what's it called, midlife, whatever it's called, over 40, and he lived alone and stuff, and his place was not what I expected. I didn't feel comfortable there. Like, it was, his shower was in his kitchen. And I was just like, and it was like he was building everything up, and I felt really uncomfortable in the bedroom. I was just, luckily I had the bed to myself, and he slept in the living room, but I was not comfortable. I was kind of getting weird vibes, but he didn't do anything, but I was just like, and my cousin later, when I told her this, she was like, girl, he was looking for a mail order bride. And but I was just like, okay, I'm not feeling this. And I did not shower there. I was like, I'm not about to shower in the fucking in the kitchen bathroom thing. I mean, maybe if he wasn't there, I probably would have toileted myself and, bird bath. But I was just like, and honestly, during the day, because I only stayed there like 2 days ago, I was just like, nah. I started looking for other situations. I was looking for couch surfing, and I could have tried for a hotel. But like I said, I wasn't balling like that, so, So luckily, I found this lady who was looking to rent to an English speaker, and within 2 days I was at her place, and he actually helped me to move, and it was really nice of him. But I'm not gonna lie, I did feel really uncomfortable, and I was just like, no, I don't want to be here, I gotta go, because yeah. But that's the story. I think my battery's about to die, so I'm not gonna go into extra detail, but that's kind of like the little mini story time of my little couch surfing stint. But that is everything. If you have any further questions, please let me know, and I'll do my best to answer them. And good luck on your move in France or wherever you're going to, and thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and you're gonna be back soon for a new video. Peace out, bisous, and hugs.
Pull up, I pull up, I pull up, I pull up.